Hey everyone, so in this video I'm going to be explaining what an ion is and the difference between cations and anions, and on top of that how ions form. So firstly we need to go over what an ion is. So an ion is an atom or a molecule that has a net electric charge because it has either gained or lost electrons. So it's not a neutral atom. It has a net electric charge. And so if it loses electrons, it becomes positively charged, and that's a cation. So let's write that down. Loses electrons, it will become positively charged. Which is a cation. And if it gains electrons, it'll become negatively charged. Which is an anion. Now, I don't really have a method for knowing the difference. You just kind of have to memorize this, but a positively charged ion is a cation and a negatively charged ion is an anion. So let me give you an example. So let's say we have sodium. It has an atomic number of 11, so it has 11 protons and 11 electrons. That's a neutral atom. If it loses one electron, it now has, if it loses one electron, it's now going to have, if it loses one electron, it'll now have 11 protons and 10 electrons. Which would make it Na+. Because now it's positively charged since it lost an electron. We can go over another example like this. We can say chlorine. Chlorine has an atomic number of 17, which means it has 17 protons and 17 electrons, which is neutral. But if it gains one electron, it'll now have 17 protons and 18 electrons. Which would make it Cl-. It's now an anion. It's now an anion since it's negatively charged. And so, as a general rule, if for main group elements, you can often predict the ion charge by looking at the group on the periodic table. So group 1 elements, so the furthest row to the left going downwards, those will usually turn into +1 cations. The group 2, just to the right of those, usually turn into +2 cations. And then group 16 elements will usually turn into -2 anions, and then group 17 will turn into -1 anions. And group 17 being just to the left of the noble gases. And we can write that down. So group 1 will turn to +1. Group 2 will turn to +2. And these are both cations since they're positively charged. And then group 16, sorry, it's kind of messy. Group 16 will turn into -2, and group 17 will turn into -1. And these are anions since they are negatively charged. And so I can even ask you different questions. I could say what ion does magnesium form? And you would look at it on the periodic table and you would see that it loses 2 electrons to become Mg2+. I could say, what ion does fluorine form? And you know what, I'm actually going to ask you this. Pause the video, look on the periodic table, try it on your own. What ion does fluorine form? The answer will be F-. And the reason it's F- is because it's a group 17 atom. If I say if an atom has 15 protons and 18 electrons, if atom has 15 protons and 18 electrons, what's its charge? And its charge would be -3, or 3 minus, and that would be an anion. So just knowing how the charges, how like adding and taking away electrons affects the charges is really important for this. Now, some of you may be wondering, why do ions matter? Well, ions are super important in chemistry because they form ionic bonds. So anytime you have a metal and a non-metal coming together, that's due to ions. And they're involved in electric currents, and they help us understand acid-base reactions, salts, and electrolytes in your body. So as a general review, an ion is a charged atom. A cation has lost electrons, so it's positive. It's a positively charged ion. An anion has gained electrons, so it's negative. It's a negatively charged ion. And we can predict these changes from the periodic table. Thank you.